Yay, we're recording. Thank you all to those of you who are attending live. Thank you to those of you watching the recording. I know it can be tough sometimes to make it. There is no time that works for everyone. So you pick a time and people who can make it will come. And that's what the recording is for. So the people who can't make it at this time can make it later. So thank you all. The Blogging 101 blogging is how I got started in the world of content marketing. There is now a lot more that I do, but blogging is still my favorite thing to do because I get to learn about all kinds of different things and then write about them. And I find it to be a lot of fun. So that said, it might be my favorite thing, but I know I'm in the minority. I talk to a lot of business owners who say, "Oh, I know I need to be blogging, but I hate writing. I don't know what to talk about. I never have the time. Blah 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 blah." I know, a million reasons not to do it. So, not knowing what, first of all, not knowing what to write about is a whole other presentation I've given. So if you have questions about that, reach out to me or put something in the chat and I can send you that information because I've given a presentation, a few presentations. I have an article about it. And it's in my book, which is behind me, which I don't know why I decided to put that up since I'm now on the virtual screen. So, but my book, Content Marketing Made Easy, also covers what to write about. This presentation is going to cover everything else about blogging, everything except keyword research, which again is a whole other, it's a third presentation and a few different blog post articles that I've written. So let's get started. First and foremost, I hope you understand why blogging is so important. But if not, these are three of my favorite reasons. There are a lot of reasons to be blogging. SEO is a big one. Google prioritizes newer content over older content. So if you put up all the stuff on your website and you just leave it and you don't publish anything new, editing existing content does not count as new content. Unless it has a new publication date, Google is going to go, no, that's still old content, does not count as new, fresh, relevant content. So consistently putting out new content. Google loves it. Real people love it. And it's a great way to position yourself as a thought leader. If you want to be the go-to person in your industry on a particular topic, you have to position yourself as a thought leader in that industry / on that topic. And blogging is a great way to do that. And it's a great way to educate prospects. I've talked about this before, the fact that I talk to people who say, I never get qualified leads online. I only get crappy leads online. Well, that's because you have crappy content or you don't have any content. So people who find you online don't learn anything about you, your expertise, the value you provide. They're looking for a commodity rather than a resource. And if you put yourself up online as a commodity, you're going to get people looking for that. If you put yourself up online as a resource and you educate your prospects, A, they're going to want to work with you, and B, they're more qualified prospects before they reach out to you because they already know more about what you do, what you're all about, why they should want to work with you over someone else. And thank you for that comment. Mary Karen is obviously always welcome in my Zoom room. So if she pops up, I will go ahead and let her in. In the meantime, how often should I be blogging? This is a big one. There is no right answer. It goes hand in hand with the next slide. But as a general rule, first of all, never less than once per month. Any less than that, and Google doesn't really take you seriously as a blogger. And people also don't really like to see stuff that's older than a month. Once they get to your blog, they want to see stuff that's fresher and more relevant. So you need to be publishing more consistently than that. On the other end of the spectrum, the people who get the most results, the most traffic, at least from their blog, are people who are publishing multiple times per day. That said, I know people watching this and attending this are solopreneurs who are DIYing most of their stuff. So don't think you have to publish a blog post every day. That's not realistic. I always emphasize quality over quantity. Yes, quantity matters, consistency matters, frequency matters, but don't try to publish content all day, every day, and sacrifice quality. You still want your blog posts to be really high quality and provide value. So what people have found as of the last time I checked is that creating those really long, in-depth blog posts every other week has been optimal, which, like I said, leads us into my next point of how long should my blog posts be? Because everyone asks this as well. So there is no one right answer. I know that would make things easier, but there is just no one right answer. It totally depends on and it really depends on the keyword. Some people say that it depends. They ask me if it depends on their industry. A lot of people say, oh, my people don't read a long blog posts, but don't sell your audience short, because the data shows that people do spend more time engaging with longer blog posts. So there is a lot of value to be had in creating those longer blog posts. And if that means that you only publish every other week instead of every week, go for it. The benefit of the longer blog posts is that you've covered everything there is to cover on a given topic. So that means that if they're totally new to a topic and they want to know all this stuff, they can get all this information from your blog. The other thing is, if they are looking for something specific, maybe they know some things about this topic, but not other things, and they really want to dig a little deeper into this one particular topic. If you have covered everything there is to cover on that topic, they will find exactly what they're looking for on your blog. And if they're looking for it and they don't find it on your blog, they're going to click away and look somewhere else. So making sure you say everything there is to say on a topic. Google loves that. Google loves the long, in-depth blog posts. People love it. People do skim blog posts. It is true that more people spend a greater amount of time engaging with the longer blog posts. That said, we do tend to skim. People don't always read every single word you write, which I know is frustrating given how much time and effort we put into that. But I do think all of the words that you write are being read, just not necessarily all by one person. So what you can do is you can facilitate the skimming. So what I do on my blog posts, if any of you have read any of my blog posts, is I always have subtopics, subheadings throughout the content. And then at the top, I will put a table of contents where I list all those subheadings and I include links to each subheading. So if you want to know about something specific, you can just click on that link and jump straight to it and get what you need, get on with your day. So again, there is no one answer to how long should a blog post be. Just make sure that it is no fewer than 500 words. That is a minimum. I have heard content marketers say that they never publish a blog post less than 2,000 words. I think Neil Patel even said he never publishes anything less than 3,000 words. That's super, super long. Again, don't freak out. Don't think you have to do that. I'm just putting the information out there as far as what some people say they are doing. The average length of a blog post to rank on the first page of Google is something like 1,750 words, which is about 3.5 pages if you type it up in a Word document, single spaced. That's a lot, right? So that's why a lot of people choose to publish every other week instead of every single week, much less every day. That said, that 1,750 word mark is the average. So yes, there's longer stuff that ranks on that first page. There's also shorter stuff that ranks on that first page. So that gets back to the topic you're covering, the keyword you're targeting. If you are targeting a particular keyword, which you always should be, look at what other people are writing about on that topic using that keyword. How long are their blog posts? If they're all writing 1,000, 2,000 word long blog posts, then your blog post should probably also be that length. If they're all 600, 700 words long, then you can write a longer or a shorter blog post and get away with it. And still, again, as long as you're covering everything there is to cover on that topic, you should be golden. Don't try to put in a bunch of fluff just to reach some arbitrary word count, because it's not providing value to your audience. And at the end of the day, it's all about providing value. So let's talk about AI. The elephant in the room, right? Everyone wants to know about using AI for their blog posts. Obviously, I have a lot of feelings about this. I have played around with ChatGPT and some of the other AI writing tools. I have not been super impressed with the content that I have gotten. I am very not concerned. I don't recommend putting in a prompt and having it generate content for you and then just copying and pasting. At the very least, you should edit it. Make sure it's accurate. First of all, fact check it, because we all saw that awful Bard commercial where Google didn't bother to fact check what Bard told them before they put it out into the world. So fact check it, right? And edit it. Make sure that it is, again, make sure it says everything you want to say, because it's going to gather what everyone else is saying online and just kind of regurgitate it for you. But that doesn't mean that it's covering everything there is to cover on a topic. So I will sometimes use ChatGPT as a way to generate ideas, or if I know what I want to talk about, but I'm just kind of having trouble getting over that hump and getting started, putting in a prompt and having it generate something for me can help get me over that hump. That is personally, that's one of my favorite ways to use AI as a writing tool is to do that. So that is always an option, and I always highly recommend that you use that as a way to, again, kind of get over that hump. Use it as an idea generator. So there's that. There is also what else did I want to say about AI? I did want to say be careful about, keep in mind the fact that it does, again, it takes information that everyone else is already saying on that topic and just kind of regurgitates it for you. So that's not really going to do anything to position you as a thought leader in your industry, because now you're just saying what everyone else is saying. And that doesn't give anyone a reason to reach out to you specifically over anyone else, because you sound like everyone else and it just all becomes white noise. So like I said, I love it as kind of a cure for writer's block. I don't use it to just like write stuff and then turn it into my client or put it up on my blog, because there are too many issues with that. There could potentially be copyright issues with that. So if the content you get from ChatGPT is too similar to something someone else wrote, you could be subject to their copyright. So keep an eye out for that. So there are a whole lot of not reasons to not use AI. I do think you should use it. I just think you need to be smart about how you use it. I think you need to use it with a good, creative, smart, knowledgeable human, not in place of a human. How to optimize your blog for search engines. Keyword research. You got to have that target keyword. And again, I have a whole other thing about keywords, so you can watch that presentation. Again, it is up on my YouTube channel. If you don't know how to find that, just reach out to me, send me an email, say, hey, Allison, I don't know where this is. I'll send you the link, no problem. So once you've got your target keywords, so for each blog post, you want your main keyword or phrase that you're targeting, and then a bunch of related keywords that get sprinkled throughout the content. You don't want to stuff your keyword. That's part of the reasons that you want to get those related keywords. It can boost your SEO because now you're hopefully ranking for all of those keywords instead of just one keyword or phrase. But the other benefit to it is that instead of stuffing that one keyword and repeating it over and over and over in your content, you can use these other keywords and still get that SEO juice without writing crappy content that sounds really repetitive and, well, crappy. If you stuff your keyword in there, it's bad content. No one wants to read that, and that's not going to convert anyone. But also, Google has caught onto that. It's one of those black hat tricks that used to work in the early days of SEO, and Google was like, no, we're not going to allow this anymore. And Google figured out how to not only not rank that content, but in some cases punish and even blacklist websites that use that. So don't stuff it, but do make sure that you've got your keywords in the right places and sprinkled throughout your content when it makes sense. I would say no more than once per paragraph. I'd say at a minimum every other paragraph, depending on how long your paragraphs are. Some people write super short paragraphs. There's absolutely a benefit to that. Again, it makes it super scannable, and it makes it easy. It's less intimidating for people to read when you've got those short paragraphs and those short sentences, because they can gobble up that paragraph and then they keep scrolling to the next paragraph, and before they know it, they've read 1,000, 1,500 words without even realizing it. Whereas if they get to your website and they see this giant block of text, it's gonna look more intimidating, and they're gonna go, do I really have time to read all of this, right? Obviously, I love reading, but even I'm going to go, oh, I have a million other things I need to do, a million other things I want to read. Do I really want to take the time to sit and read this giant block of text? Whereas if you break it up into smaller chunks, I'm going to be much more likely to keep reading. So that's another tip, is to break it up into smaller chunks. Keywords. You want your target keyword in your title. And I'll talk about your title in a bit. You want it in your URL. That's what shows up in the bar at the very top. And you want to sprinkle it throughout your subheadings. So again, if your content is longer, you want those subheadings, which again, Google loves those. Google reads your title, your URL, your subheadings, your other meta tags before it reads the rest of your content. So that's why you want to get your keyword in those places, because that's going to give Google a better idea of what your content is all about. And again, real life people too. If they search for something and Google gives them a headline and they don't see what they just put in the search bar in that headline, they're going to be more likely to keep scrolling until they find something that does match what they were just looking for. I know I've done that all the time. So make sure your keywords are in all the right places. Make sure you've got that, the subheadings. And again, subheadings make it easier for people to skim your content, find exactly what they're looking for. So make it super skimmable. It breaks up the content. It makes it less intimidating so they can, again, get what they need, get out, get on with their day. Perfect your headline. I like to use CoSchedule's headline analyzer with a caveat because it does do some really cool things as far as telling you what the power words are, what the emotional words are. It gives you an idea of how long the content is. For some reason, CoSchedule has gotten the idea that headlines at least 70 letters long are ideal. That is false. In actuality, once you get to 70 letters, Google cuts it off. People can't really see beyond that 70th letter. So I always try to keep it shorter than 70 letters, especially if you consider the fact that people are increasingly mobile, which compresses the amount of space that they have to look at a headline. So think about it in terms of if they only see the first 3 words, what are those 3 words? And then the rest is gravy. You're right. You need the rest to, maybe get another keyword in there, get that emotional headline in there. Your headline has to do a lot of work. So you got to get the keyword in there. You got to get the emotional part in there because you got to give people a reason to click through and keep reading. Think about all of the other things on their to-do list, all of the other pieces of content trying to get their attention. What is going to get them to stop and scroll and click on your headline? It has to be something powerful and emotional. I also don't think CoSchedule is great at identifying what's an emotional word versus a power word, but that's a topic for another day. But you can give it a keyword and tell it, it will give you a score as to how effective your content is your headline is based on a variety of factors, including word count, length, readability. Readability is a big one. You don't want to use big, complicated words. In essence, that means anything more than about 3 syllables tends to be on the long side, and that's when you start to lose people. So the simpler you can make it, the easier it's going to be for people to read. More people can read it. I mean, this depends on your audience. I have a fairly educated audience, so there are some things that I know that I can use in my headline, and people know what I'm talking about. But in general, you want to avoid the longer, more complicated words. Also avoid industry-specific jargon and acronyms, especially in your headline. You can talk about them in the body, especially if you define in the body, like here's the acronym, here's what the acronym stands for, and then continue on using it in the rest of the piece now that you've educated your audience about that. But don't just assume that they know all the acronyms unless you are targeting people in your industry. That's something even I often forget. I talk about SEO all the time. And as I'm saying this, I just realized that I was talking about SEO earlier and did not spell out that SEO stands for search engine optimization. So see, even I fall flat a number of times. So hopefully you got in the context what I was talking about with SEO there, but it stands for search engine optimization, which I like to say it as making Google your friend. So your headline needs that keyword. It needs to be emotional. It needs to give people a reason to click through. It has to tell them what your content is about, obviously without saying everything, but it has to, then you have to make sure you fulfill that promise, right? You don't want to be like, let's talk about AI and how awesome it is. And then your content is actually about how awful AI is and why no one should ever use it, right? Make a promise and then actually fulfill that promise in the content. Make a list, check it twice. I cannot tell you how many times I've come up with an idea for a blog post and I go, did I write about this already? And sometimes I will search and go, yep, totally wrote about that already. Totally forgot that I had this blog post. So the problem with creating content that you've already created is A, you're doing more work when you could just edit, unpublish, republish that old blog post and still get that juicy SEO benefit out of it. The other thing is that you are then competing with yourself for that keyword. And you don't want to do that because then both pieces of content will be downgraded in the search. So always, if you've been blogging for a while, check and make sure you have not already written that. I blog in WordPress, so I can just go to my posts and do a quick search and be like, did I write about this already? Which is what I normally do. For my clients, I tend to maintain a spreadsheet where every time I write a new blog post for them, I list it out so that when I'm thinking of new blog post ideas, I can go to that list and see if I already wrote about that. So make a list, check it twice before you start writing. Research your topic. Obviously, you are the expert. You know everything there is to know about your topic, but that doesn't always mean you can think of it off the top of your head. So research it, see what everyone else is saying on that topic. You want to create a post that is the ultimate guide on that topic. And that means that you have to cover everything there is to say on that topic. So I always like to see what other people are saying on my topics to make sure I don't miss anything. I frequently will look something up and go, oh, that's right, there's such and such. And oh, that's right, I have to talk about this and that. I also, as I'm writing, I'm not a big fan of using outlines. I prefer to just sit and write. But usually while I'm writing, ideas will come to me. I'll go, oh, that's right, I have to talk about this and this, and I have to remember that. So then I'll create bullet points as I'm writing so that I remember to come back to those points. But research your topic, make sure you're saying everything there is to say on that topic so that your post is the ultimate guide. They will not find anything anywhere else that they will not find on your website. Tell a story. So as humans, we are primed to engage with stories and we are primed to remember stories. So I can tell you all the facts and figures about storytelling, about blogging, about SEO, and it'll go in one ear and out the other, unless you're a numbers person, right? But if I tell you a story, you're going to be more likely to remember it, and it's going to really make the concept concrete for you. It'll kind of solidify it and go, oh, that's that. It'll make you go, that's what Allison's talking about. So tell them a story, because if you want to be memorable and you want them to actually read your content, and have the concept you're trying to tell make sense to them, put it in a story. Every single blog post needs to be centered around a story. Again, I have a whole other presentation about and blog post about actually I have a couple different blog posts about different ways to incorporate storytelling into your blog post. You can tell a quick story at the beginning. I did this with actually a LinkedIn post just yesterday where I was talking about, I was on vacation and I saw hummingbirds and I managed to relate that to marketing, right? So it was a story that I told first and then took that and turned it into a marketing lesson. You can also include the marketing lesson as part of the story where you go, case study is a great example of this, right? So and so had this problem. They came to us. Here's what we did. Here's the solution, right? The beginning is the problem. The middle is what you did. The end is the resolution and how you solve that problem for them. Bunch of different ways to incorporate stories into your marketing, but regardless of which way you choose, make sure you tell them a story. It's the best way to keep people reading. Because again, people have a ton of content vying for their attention and things on their to-do list. So what is going to make them engage with your content over someone else's? A story is really key to that. And it's going to make you memorable, because if you think about how many pieces of content we read, watch, listen to in any given day, it adds up really, really quickly. So if you tell them a story, they're going to be more likely to remember what you told them. Come on. Proofread your content before publishing. Um, a number of things about editing. First and foremost, well, if you can get a second pair of eyes on it, that is ideal. Either a professional editor or a business partner or your spouse, or if your kid is getting a really good grade in English, maybe have them proofread it for you. Ideally, you want to get a second pair of eyes on your content because you know what you meant to write, whereas someone else will come in. So sometimes your brain fills in what you meant to say, instead of what's actually on the paper or on the screen, as the case may be. So having that second pair of eyes makes it more likely that people will actually find it. So second pair of eyes, great. If you cannot get a second pair of eyes, first and foremost, I want you to step away from the content. Don't look at it for at least 24 hours, right? At the very least, go to sleep, walk your dog, do some other work on another project, and then come back and look at it. And you'll look at it with fresh eyes, and you'll see, you'll also find things that you didn't realize you were, the flow, for example, will pop out at you as either like, oh, this flows really well, or this paragraph is here and it shouldn't be here, it should be somewhere else, or this doesn't make any sense here, it should be moved here instead. So flow is important. Relevance is also important. Again, especially if you're like me and you don't like to use outlines. I will often sit down and write something and be like, oh, yeah, this is great. It doesn't actually make sense. It's not relevant to what I'm trying to say. Which is another point about your headline. A lot of people, some people like to write the headline first. Some people like to write the headline last. I kind of do both. I will write the headline first, and then when I'm done, I will come back and look at the headline and make sure it still makes sense with what I wrote. It's still making the promise that my content is fulfilling. And if I got off on a tangent and ended up writing about something different, then I know I need to adjust the headlines so that they line up. And again, proofreading, you want to make sure there's a story. You want to make sure, obviously, that it's grammatically accurate, that you've got all the right spellings, you've got the right there, for example, the right your in all the right places. So absolutely make sure that you are incorporating all of that into your editing process. And a couple other tricks. One is to read it out loud, because that forces you to slow down. When you're reading your own content, you tend to skim it. You're not really looking at what's on the page or on the screen, because again, you know what you meant to write. So you just assume what you meant to write is there, even if that's not what's actually there. So if you read it out loud, it forces you to slow down and you're more likely to catch those mistakes. The other one is changing the font. Again, I like to write my blog posts in WordPress, and then I will do a publish preview, which means I can see what it'll look like when it's published without actually publishing it. And that makes it look completely different, because now I'm seeing it from the front end of my website instead of the back end. That's a great way to trick your brain into thinking that you're looking at completely new content, when in fact you're looking at the same old blog post, sales page, bio, whatever it is you're writing. So that can also force your brain to slow down, and you're more likely to catch those tricks. So editing is making sure there's a story, making sure it's relevant, making sure it flows well. And then proofreading is the little stuff. That's the detail-oriented form of editing, where you got to look at grammar, typing, spelling, typos, all that good stuff. And you need to do both. So editing is a process in and of itself. So you've got your blog. Where do you put it? I always recommend putting it on your own website. Mary is getting excited because she knows what I'm going to say, because she's heard this from me a million times already. Put it on your own website. It is the only real estate online that you actually own. If you put it up on social media and it only lives on social media, or you put it up on another website like Medium, you don't have any control over it. They can delete it without telling you. Social media likes to put you in jail every now and then without giving you a reason why. So that tends to happen. That's something to consider. So if you are putting all this time and effort and energy into building something and then someone destroys it, they can just whoop, knock it over with a click of the button, click on their keyboard, and it's gone, and you have no way to get it back. So always, always, always prioritize putting it on your own website. That said, I do love social media for distributing your content. Just putting it up on your website and saying, ta-da, I'm done, and watching all the people come to your website, it doesn't actually work that way. You have to get the word out. So social media is one of my favorite ways to get the word out. Networking, speaking, webinars, things like this are also a great way to get the word out about the content on your website, as well as your newsletter. That's another thing I hear is people don't know what to put in their newsletter. Write a blog post and then tell people about the new blog post in your newsletter. That's a great way to drive traffic back to your website. And again, you're providing value in the newsletter because people are not always, if they might be familiar with you, they might have met you at a networking event, they want to stay in touch, but they're not going to remember to visit your website every day, every week, every other week, right? So send them a newsletter, say, hey, here's my new blog post. Thought you might want to read about these content distribution tips and tricks to help you get more traffic to your website, right? So it's not enough to just put it up on your website and go, ta-da, done. You have to actively distribute your content. And then you have to do it all over again. One of the most important, I know, Mary's like, one of the most important things about blogging that I see people messing up over and over and over again is they don't do it over and over and over again. They put up a few blog posts, they get busy with other stuff, they forget about the blog, they don't prioritize the blog, they don't have a schedule for their blog, which is super important. If you have a schedule for your blog, you can eliminate a lot of these problems. So have a schedule before you ever start writing. Decide how frequently you're going to write. Decide what day of the week, what time it's going to go up, or day of the month. If you're doing it bi-monthly, right? Or once a month, you can do it that way too. Consistency, like I said, frequency does matter, but consistency also really, really matters. Consistency, quality, and then I would say quality first, then consistency, and then frequency. They're all important, but I would put them in that order of importance. So make sure that you have a schedule and you stick to it. Because if you just put up a bunch of blog posts and then you forget about it for a while, and then you put up a bunch more blog posts and then you forget about it for a while, that's not going to do a whole lot to build trust with anyone. It's not going to build trust with Google. Google wants to make sure you're trustworthy. And one of the things it looks at is, are you consistently creating content? If you are, great. That's one point in your favor for trustworthiness. Same with the real life people who find your website. If they show up and they see that you have not published anything since 2022, 2021, I'm trying to remember, there was one person's website I visited not too long ago where they hadn't published anything for at least a year or two. And I was like, is this accurate? Have you not published anything in this long? And it was surprising because up until that point, they had been super consistent and publishing every week or every other week. I was like, what happened? And that's exactly what people visiting your website are going to think. That if they don't see any new blog posts, they're going to go, what happened? Are they even still in business anymore? And if they are, if this is the attention they pay to their blog and their website, is this the kind of attention I can expect as a client? So all good things to consider. And last but not least, if you have any further questions, A, you can ask them now. B, this QR code it will take you to my scheduling link so you can schedule some time with me and I can answer those questions for you. I do also offer a blogging strategy session. This is just a free meeting with me, but if you want to send me your blog and have me look it over and give you thoughts on what you're doing right and where you may be missing the mark, that is another service that I offer. And obviously I write blog posts for people. So that is, yeah, Mary's like, what? I didn't know that. So that is it. So if anyone has questions, I will go ahead and stop recording. So thank you to those of you watching the recording. If you have questions, You can put a comment to the video, or you can just email me at info@av, as in my initials, Allison Verhalen. I am at info@avwritingservices.com. Thanks so much.